7 historical figures whose identities remain a mystery. 1. The Man in the Iron Mask. The Man in the Iron Mask was a famous prisoner. He was imprisoned by King Louis XIV in the 1680s. He wore a mask to hide his identity. Historians say it was probably velvet rather than iron. The man spent 34 years in custody under the same jailer. When he died, his belongings were burned. His cell walls were scrubbed clean. Alexandre Dumas wrote a novel about him. There are conflicting versions of who the man was. His crime remains unknown as well. 2. D.B. Cooper. On November 24, 1971, a man hijacked a plane. The man called himself Dan Cooper. The media reported his name as D.B. Cooper due to a mistake. The Boeing 727 was traveling from Seattle to Portland, Oregon. Cooper extorted $200,000 as ransom. He then parachuted from the plane at midnight. Cooper seemingly vanished into thin air. His identity and whereabouts have never been established. It's still the only unsolved air heist in aviation history. 3. Mary Doe 4. In 1978, an elderly woman died in Queen Wood East Nursing Home. Mary Doe 4 was how she was recorded, but no one knew who she really was. About 50 years earlier, she'd been found wandering along a road. The woman was disoriented and beaten. When asked who she was, she couldn't remember her name. She later remembered that she'd been a schoolteacher. Despite extensive investigations, her identity was never uncovered. 4. La Canoe de la Seine. In the 1880s, a body was pulled out of the Seine in Paris. It belonged to a young woman of about 16. The pathologist made a death mask of her face. The mask was considered very beautiful. The woman was nicknamed the Drowned Mona Lisa. Plaster copies of it became popular decorations. It was later used as a model for the Resuscitation mannequin. Since the 1960s, the doll has been used in CPR training. The identity of the woman has never been established. 5. Tsugumi Oba. Tsugumi Oba is immensely popular. He or she is the author of Death Note, a Japanese manga series. Yet Tsugumi Oba is just a pen name. The author's real identity is closely guarded. Amazingly, despite millions of fans, Oba has never been outed. There are plenty of theories and fan investigations, but they're all inconclusive. 6. Tank Man. In 1989, a million Chinese came out in protest. They occupied Tiananmen Square in Beijing to call for freedom. The military was called in to suppress the protests. Martial law was imposed. On June 5th, a man stood in the middle of the road. He was directly in the path of approaching tanks. The man was dressed casually and held 2 shopping bags. When the tanks tried to drive around him, he stepped in their way. This lasted until agents pulled him away. This is probably the most famous image from Tiananmen. Yet the tank man's fate and identity are unknown. 7. The Wonderman. The Wonderman was the nickname of the Count of Saint-Germain. He appeared in European high society in the mid-1700s. The Count was interested in the arts, alchemy, and science. Neither his parentage nor place of birth were known. He could reportedly speak nearly all European languages. He was a capable violinist and composer. People said the Wonderman always looked the same age. Voltaire described him as a man who knows everything and who never dies. Actually, the Count likely died in Schleswig in 1784, but his mystery remains unsolved.